Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of your BC Real Estate Guide for everyday buyers, sellers, and investors. I am Garry Voigt, alongside my colleague and team member, Donna.
Hi, good morning.
And we are here today to talk to you about the importance of using a realtor for purchasing a presale. Now, this is a question we get asked a lot, and it is a very misunderstood perception from the public as well, actually. So we're going to go over the benefits of using a realtor, and we're going to go over why it's so important and what we help with in the pre-sale process. Mm-hmm. So let's say, Donna, you're walking into a sales center, as people do ever so often, and you want to buy a condo or a townhouse.
Right. So I'll walk up to the sales rep and they will show me their product. They will look at the floor plan with me. If there is something built like for the sales center, they will show me through the sales center. And then, you know what, I really like this and I want to pull the plug. And they're like, okay, well, why don't we sit down and I'll write the contract with you and, let's get the ball rolling. And a lot of people say, sure, why don't we do that? And that's what happens. But what you need to remember when you are in a situation like that is that the sales rep, as lovely as they are working directly for the developer. They are not working for you. So to have somebody write a contract for you that is working for the seller really doesn't make any sense. So that is why we think it's so extremely important that you do have a realtor with you when you're buying a presale.
Yeah, and for a number of reasons, that's a really good point. So the number one reason is that the person in the sales center is actually working for the developer.
Right.
They are not working on your best interest. In fact, you have to basically sign a document that says know the risks of being an unrepresented party in a transaction. And so they cannot give you advice on the price. The salespeople can't give you advice on any terms and conditions in the contract. They cannot negotiate for you. They cannot share any of their clients' confidential information with you, like their minimum or maximum price. And they don't have to protect your confidential information. You know, if you tell them, I love the place. Yeah, we can't wait. We want this specific unit. We're willing to do whatever to get it. For one, you probably shouldn't release any motivation at the sales center to that rep. And for two, they can jack up the price on you or they can do whatever they want, because don't forget, now they know your motivation and they're working for the best interest of the developer. So if this happens to you where you find yourself in a sales center, which a lot of people do, and you find yourself interested in a unit, contact your realtor immediately. The sales center reps don't mind that. They, a lot of them prefer it because then you get proper representation and there's no trouble or there's no issues down the road.
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely agree, because when I was doing developments, I think we had this discussion yesterday. I had no problem whatsoever if somebody brought in their realtor, because it takes away the stress and the responsibility from you as well. So yeah,
and a common misconception is, okay, if we don't use a realtor, we're going to get a better deal.
Right. It's not true. And I don't think that's even allowed.
Yeah.
But so to the developer, really, they're not going to change the price whether you have a realtor or not. The sales reps are typically on some kind of commission, regardless of whether or not a realtor comes in. So to them, it probably would be better too.
Yeah. So you said that they wouldn't change the price, but I think you meant they wouldn't change they wouldn't negotiate because of they're not paying a realtor's fees on that front. So right when a developer launches a development, they put aside an amount already for cooperating brokerages to pay for the realtors for the buyer's representation. Mm-hmm. So that money is already put aside. So it's not like for every deal, there's a negotiation to be had because a purchasing realtor's not going to be getting paid. They've already put that money aside for the for the purchaser's realtor to get paid, to represent them.
Yeah, I was asked many times when I was a sales manager for some really good developers. People would walk in and say, okay, so if I bought in a realtor, commission would be $10,000. If I don't bring my realtor, can you give me that $10,000 off? And the answer was every time a straight no. Bring your realtor. It's fine.
Bring a realtor.
Yeah.
And we're going to chat about the massive, massive benefits of having a realtor represent you on a pre-sale We have done tons and tons and tons of them. And the value that we provide to our clients, they are so grateful for, and they are appreciative for, because there is a lot to buying a pre-sale. You might think you just walk into a sales center, pick out a couple colors, woohoo. There's a lot of ins and outs of the contract. There's a lot of negotiations to be made. There's a lot to be aware of with the contract. And this is all what a realtor does to represent you and your best interest within this transaction. So a couple things that we're going to talk about right off the bat is, do you understand the contract? So when you engage with us to purchase a pre-sale, there's a 7-day rescission period. So for example, we go in there, I meet you in there, we pick out a great unit for you. We might leave, and at that point, we might have an opportunity to negotiate with the sales rep a number of items that could be negotiated. There could be a negotiation on price. We've had huge success negotiating on price. But not only that, but realtors get notifications of realtor discounts for their clients that the public doesn't receive. So we could get, a notification or be contacted by development and say, hey, for realtors, we're giving $20,000 off the purchase price. That information is not released to the public. So right off the bat there, engaging with a realtor, you could already save money there off the purchase price for realtor incentives for their buyers. And then we could negotiate parking stalls. How many parking stalls come with the unit? Because a lot of the times they're charging anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 in the Fraser Valley and $20,000 to $50,000 in Greater Vancouver. We've had success negotiating a second parking stall, a storage locker, a bike locker at no cost, stuff like that. Like all of that is a negotiation.
Yeah, like upgraded appliances, flooring, air conditioning, all of the things that you would see in the sales center. That they would give you a list with a dollar amount. Not necessarily you would be able to get all of them, but we could try,
We've had
negotiate
success.
some of them.
We've had success where we've been able to negotiate, $15,000 in upgrades at no cost. Or we've been able to negotiate a fully upgraded unit or a sales center for the cost of a regular unit.
Right.
So it's all dependent, of course, on market conditions, but
Right.
and of course of their knowledge, realtors' knowledge of the market as well. And again, our knowledge pays dividends in your negotiation.
We could go to another very similar development and we know that they're offering those upgrades.
Yeah, and we could just say, hey, this is
yeah.
a similar product. They're offering these upgrades, and it's something that the public wouldn't be privy to. So there's a lot of details of a contract, that the public has to be aware of. For example, deposit structure, that can also be negotiated. That is something that's negotiated all the time. Sometimes some sales centers or some developments will require 15%, some 20%. We've negotiated that down to 5%, 10%. And of course, that leaves you more cash because these sales or these units might not be completed for another 3 to 5 years from now. So, not having 20% tied up or not having 15% tied up might be something of interest for a buyer, and only having to put 5% down. Another huge negotiating factor that we do use is assignment fees. Some charge assignment fees. I've seen up to 5%. Some don't even allow assignments. Is that something you as a consumer are aware of? And is that something that can be negotiated? And the answer is definitely.
Well, if you're buying for an investment and it is something that you think that you're going to want to assign, I've seen contracts where it's been crossed out and it's actually $0 or $300 when it was $3,000. So that's definitely something to look at if you are planning on assigning it at some point as an investment.
Definitely. And is that something you as a consumer feel comfortable trying to negotiate, not having an immense amount of knowledge in it or past experience purchasing pre-sales with that developer's rep? Probably not. With us, we could say, hey, we just had a client purchase this development. It was a $500 assignment fee, or it was a $0 assignment fee, only the administration fee. We want to see the same one in this one, and we've had extreme success with that as well. Are you aware of the GST payable on a pre-sale? Don't forget, you have to pay 5% GST on every new build. You got to make sure that is gone over. Is there property transfer tax that is applicable for this? Is the sales rep going over all of this with you?
Well, you would hope so, but your realtor definitely would.
And again, don't forget, they're not working for you. They're not working, they might go over it on the contract. They might not go over it in detail, but they might go over it. But they're not making sure you're remembering about it. If you've signed that contract, come completion, make sure you're aware that GST or PTT there is applicable. You want to be aware of the estimated completion date. They have an outside date on the contract. What does that mean?
Yeah, the estimated completion date is the date they think and they hope that it's going to be built, but the outside date it gives them a lot of wiggle room. And it could be like something like a year apart from the completion date. So, and that's one thing that we also do as your realtor is we're in touch with the developer and the salespeople all the time, just getting updates on where they are with construction, because they do have a construction schedule, but things happen. Right. So
exactly.
we will keep up to date with them, and they will tell us, hey, we're 6 months behind. But that's not necessarily some information that you would be able to get. And a lot of the times the sales centers will shut down once they're sold out, and then it's like, oh my gosh, who do we contact now? Well, you have your realtor to do that, and we know who to contact. So
yeah. And that is something that's really important. And something else is looking at the site plan for the location of the unit.
Right.
Are you aware of where the location is exactly going to be? Are you aware of the exact square footage of the unit? Because a lot of the times you get a floor plan and it's all estimate. And if you read the fine print, it's not to be relied upon. Are you aware of that?
Yeah. They can, if you look at the contract or in the developer's disclosure statement, which we'll get to again in a moment, there'll be a percentage number in there. And it's typically around 5%. So there can be like a 5% leeway based on the strata plan of your unit. And, maybe you don't know that.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know what to look for. So much information.
There is so much information that we know what to look for from experience, and we go through that contract with you with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that you are aware of all the ins and outs of it. Whereas if you just walk into a sales center, they might go over some points with you 5, 10, 15 minutes, if that, and expect you to know all the ins and outs of these developers' contracts, which is written for their own benefit.
Yeah, and every developer's contract is different. And then the other thing they'll do is give you the developer's disclosure statement, and you will sign in that contract to say that you have received it, and the 7-day rescission period is deemed enough for you to actually read it and understand it. Some of these disclosure statements can be hundreds of pages long.
Hundreds of pages long.
Plus, then you'll get the first, second, third, fourth, fifth amendment, and you need to understand what those amendments are as well. So we would go through the developer's disclosure statement with you. We'd go through the strata plan, the construction schedule. It has info on the developer. It has the bylaws that they're adopting before they have their AGM.
What if you have pets, certain pets? You got to make sure that they're allowed in the building. How will you know that? Well, you can read the bylaws that's in the disclosure statement. It used to have rental restrictions in there. It used to have all kinds of stuff in there. Do you know what you're looking at in those 200 to 300 pages? Probably not. Right. Again, the value of having a realtor working for your best interest. But not only that, but we saw in, I think last year or the year before, developers were sneaking things into contracts. And again, we said before, we go through them with a fine-tooth comb because they're written for their best benefit by their lawyers. So it's really important that you look for keywords and key phrases in there, because there was one development that they said that if the building material price goes up by this amount, according to, I think it was some home price index or something like that, they were going to increase the purchase prices, which is, I bet you so many people didn't catch that in the contract. But how crazy is that there could be something in the contract increasing the price of your pre-sale that you purchased?
Yeah.
So are you going to be reading that pre-sale contract that closely to catch that? Well, maybe not. Maybe you would benefit for a second set of eyes that costs you absolutely nothing, because don't forget the developer is paying your representation or your realtor to represent you on your pre-sale purchase.
There's also often hidden costs as well for deposits. Like on the front page, you'll have, okay, well, there's your 5% increase to 10%. But we have a client right now who bought pre-sale, and there are 2 further deposits of $2,000. And our client thought that they'd actually paid everything. But we had it in our calendar. We knew that it was coming. So when the developer sent the email to say that it was due, we were on it because we knew that it was payable. So
yeah, definitely. and walkthroughs, key handovers, everything like that. It can get awkward in a walkthrough between a buyer and a developer. And it depends who the buyer is. But if there's a realtor in there representing you, then we can be the bad guy with the walkthrough. You know, if there's certain deficiencies in there and you might not want to be, you know, annoying, or you might not want to look like you're too picky, we're there to ensure that that walkthrough is acceptable. And we're there to make sure that we're on the developer's butt to make sure that those are done before that you move in. Or what a lot of people don't know is they have a year to actually fix these deficiencies. Again, if you don't read that contract with a fine-tooth comb, then you might not know. And perhaps a lot of the times you don't get supplied a copy of that deficiency report. So we're there to take a photo of it, save it for our records so that we can come back to it, or take notes so that we can come back to it, so that on possession we can check to see if those deficiencies are done.
And possession is a big thing as well, because sometimes in the contract, they'll give you just 10 days.
10 days notice, yeah. So all your ducks have to be in a row.
But what we will do as your realtor is we will continuously be in touch with the developer. We will see where they're at with the city, whether they've got their final occupancy, because without that you can't move in. So once we know that they have that, then we know that something's going to start happening, and we can get you prepared to get ready. It's not something that you would probably do yourself. You would just wait for them to give you that 10 days notice, and then you're just scrambling.
Yeah. So again, it's just from past experience and inside knowledge from dealing with pre-sales in the past. So I think we've touched on a lot of good points. Again, we're just scratching on the surface. Main point of the podcast was huge benefit to hiring a realtor to purchase a pre-sale, and it doesn't cost you anything. And they are going to be working on your best interest when the sales rep is working for their best interest of the developer. And it will help you with an all-around more knowledgeable, fun, and better experience, perhaps than just going into the sales center and giving it a shot in the dark. So there you go. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions about buying a pre-sale, or if you want to get into the pre-sale market, reach out to us anytime at info@GarryVoigt.com. Take care, everyone.